Sauce the boss in the building. 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 Sauce the boss in the building.
Sauce the boss, yo, sauce the boss, of course. Hence, it's the same sauce. Sauce the boss, yo, sauce the boss, of course.
This mannequin over here, we came in here one night, it literally moved. Something about that pig has been seen in this room. It can get real weird in here. John Moore actually was in here for murdering his aunt and uncle. And I noticed there was a pink mark on my face, about that big around. It felt like a burn. She poisoned her stepdaughter. Her first husband was seriously diagnosed. She was held in here. Her name was Ray Krause. There's times that I don't feel like being in here.
The door closed behind us, just scratch marks, troll stock.
Twice? 2 different devices. Eli.
Oh my demon.
It was a demonic name that had all these other demonic entities working for it, I guess.
Look at that energy.
Who is it on the ground?
Look at the corn right here.
And this face with no pupils.
That's insane.
Oh no.
People have said they will not return because of that hole.
Yep. Because they feel like it's portal.
The urban legends of the Mexico City subway. It's called La Niña Caníbal. There was an 8-year-old girl named Rosarita Sanchez Sierra. She was with her mom, and they were navigating the Tacubaya station on line 1 during rush hour. So you can imagine it's obviously mad packed with mad people. It got to a point where she let go of her mom's hand and tried her best to get past the crowd, but she just got overwhelmed and scared. And once her mom realized that Rosa was gone, immediately she told the police at the train station, but they couldn't find her. So at this point, they're just thinking she could be long gone by now, since they couldn't just stop the subway from going. But now there was police in every single station doing searches. And then there were civilians saying that they were seeing mutilated bodies with a girl taking bites of the bodies and shit. But they didn't know if it was that same girl that got lost. 3 weeks after she was lost, police found her in a tunnel, but she didn't look like she was dying of hunger, thirst, anything. She looked perfectly normal. Police asked her what happened or where she's been these past couple weeks. And then that's when she said, I saw this homeless man who had fell off from the tracks. He injured his leg. That ended up the reason why he died. Then she saw rats eating the corpse. And then her being hungry, she ended up following what the rats did. So she ended up eating parts of the homeless man. And then she would go back, hide in the tunnels, go back to the body whenever she was hungry, take bites, and then go back.
But she's basically acting like a rat.
Yeah.
That's literally what a rat does.
And also it's because she's...
In January 2013, 17-year-old Kendrick Johnson walked into his high school gym in Georgia and never walked out. Hours later, his body was discovered, rolled up inside a vertical wrestling mat upside down, his face swollen beyond recognition. Authorities quickly ruled it an accident, claiming Kendrick had fallen headfirst into the mat while trying to retrieve a shoe. They said he got stuck and suffocated, but the evidence told a different story. Kendrick's body showed signs of blunt force trauma, injuries too severe to be explained away by a simple fall. His internal organs had mysteriously been removed and replaced with newspaper before the second autopsy, something the funeral home blamed on standard practice, but many believed it was an attempt to hide the truth. And then there was the missing footage. Hours of security camera recordings inside the gym, gone. The official story? The cameras were out of sync. But to Kendrick's family, it sounded like something much worse, a cover-up. Over the years, lawsuits were filed, investigations reopened, and rumors swirled. Some said Kendrick had gotten into a fight with students connected to powerful families, and that what happened inside the gym was no accident. Despite the evidence, despite the outrage, no one has ever been charged in Kendrick Johnson's death. And today, the case remains one of the most haunting and suspicious unsolved deaths in recent American history. Because Kendrick Johnson didn't just fall into the mat, he was hidden inside it.
I've never cried harder than when I read this book. It's about the life and untimely death of 12-year-old Andy Brewer. She was kidnapped from her home in Arkansas on May 15th, 1999 by someone she should have been able to trust, her uncle, Carl Roberts. Carl would go on to sexually assault and murder Andy, leaving her in the woods for 3 days until she was found. And while her mom, Rebecca, was pleading for answers and finding her little girl, he looked her in the eyes and lied about what he did to her. Rebecca wrote this book to try and heal from the loss of losing Andy, and she detailed details everything from finding out Andy was missing to those excruciating 3 days before she was found, and then to planning her little girl's funeral. And that's something that nobody should have to say, let alone live through. This book broke me in ways that I cannot even put into words. With each page, I feel like I cried a little bit more and my face would literally turn hot with sadness. But through all the heartbreak that's in this book, you also get to learn who Andy was. And my gosh, was she a beautiful, kind, and responsible little girl who loved life. I truly don't think a story has ever stayed with me as much as Andy's. And that just proves how strong her mom's words are. Rebecca is literally carrying on Andy's legacy in such a significant way just by telling her story. One thing that I love is that Rebecca includes pictures of Andy throughout this book, so you really get to see who she was. There were many times that I had to stop reading to kind of sit back and really realize the gravity of what happened to Andy. Rebecca included Carl's written confession of what he did to her, and I'm not going to lie, it's one of the most horrific things that I've ever read. Absolutely nobody should have to go through what Andy did, and the fact that she was just a little girl, it's so heartbreaking. This book embodies grief and what it means to lose someone who is your entire world, the person who made you a mom. It proves that grief is not linear and it affects people differently, and it affects more people than you probably realize. And although this book is incredibly sad, Rebecca shares how she's moved forward with her life and how Andy is always at the center of whatever decision she makes. And let me tell you, Rebecca has gone on to do such amazing advocacy work for other families who have gone through the same thing as her. She is the definition of turning your pain into purpose. Rebecca is truly so kind, and I've only ever gotten to talk to her over email, but she deserves everything good this world has to offer. One thing that Rebecca made very clear in this book is that Andy is more than just what happened to her, and the entire world should know who she is. So please, if you can, go read this book and support Andy's mom. It would mean the world to me and to her if everyone could learn about Andy. She was a beautiful little girl who should still be here today.
Imagine loving someone so much you agree to let them kill you. Honestly, if I didn't know this was a real true crime case, I would think this was a far-fetched horror film. It was August 2012 in Dublin in Ireland. Elaine O'Hara was a lovely lady who actually had a really rough childhood. She had many mental and physical health issues from an early age, and bullies honestly saw her as a bit of an easy target. She had depression, BPD, diabetes, dyslexia, and just really struggled. She had to even be hospitalized at some points due to her mental health, and this was made even worse when her mum passed away in 2002. Then she was literally kicked while she was down when her doctor died too, who she'd become really close to. She made some attempts to unalive herself, which were thankfully successful. She really was a fighter. She was trying to battle through these hard times. She wanted a better life for herself. She worked hard as a childcare assistant to earn some money and was also taking some classes to try and get a job as a qualified teacher. But she was really lonely. She felt like she was kind of missing something from her life. She really wanted a romantic partner. She thought that maybe finding a partner would bring her back some joy in her life, but she couldn't have been more wrong. Suddenly, totally out of the blue, on the 22nd of August 2012, after a stint in a mental health institution, Elaine just vanished. She'd left her bag and her belongings at her home, and CCTV showed her leaving of her own accord. Did this mean that she'd intentionally gone off and unalived herself somewhere? Everyone's fears seemed to be confirmed when her car was found abandoned by some local cliffs. And the search for Elaine seemed to slow at this point. It almost was like everyone honestly kind of just accepted that she'd probably done this to herself. All of the evidence was kind of pointing in that direction. But roughly a year later, an alarming discovery was made. Two men who were in the local area stumbled upon a rucksack lying in the water in a reservoir in County Wicklow. And this was only really visible because it had been quite warm at the time, so the water was slightly lower than usual. It was kind of a fluke. This bag shouldn't have been visible, but the fact that the men are incredibly disturbing. Normal clothing, there was some restraints. About what they'd found, they took the items and handed them in to the local police and told them where they'd found them. Police then headed back there and found even more worrying items, including handcuffs, a mask, and a knife. Then they found an ID card, and this belonged to Elaine. So they decided to get the water search team in, and lo and behold, they found 2 phones under the water. Meanwhile, a local woman was walking her dog, and the dog made another alarming discovery. The dog had picked up some kind of bones that initially the woman thought were just animal bones, but on closer inspection, they just didn't seem like it. So she reported this to authorities, who later tragically confirmed that they belonged to Elaine. Clearly something horrific had gone on here. This wasn't just a standard self-unaliving. Investigators trawled through electronic devices and found some really questionable websites that Elaine had been browsing on. She'd been in communications with a man called Graham Dwyer. Now, I've read a lot about Graham, and some reports say that he seemed like a normal guy, and some reports say that ex-girlfriends kind of had a bit of a bad feeling about him. He didn't really seem to have massive warning signs prior to this, though. He had no known criminal history and seemingly had had some fairly normal relationships. He worked as an architect and enjoyed driving luxury cars. He actually owned at one point the same car that I have, an Audi TT. He also owned a Porsche 911, which is one of my absolute dream cars. However, he was in huge financial trouble. He was also shockingly married and also was a dad. They didn't just meet on a normal website. This was an incredibly disturbing website. He had met Elaine on the disturbing website in order to have an affair with her that would satisfy his fantasies. Now, the pair had regularly been meeting up in person, as well as exchanging really horrific texts that clearly demonstrated that he had a desire to unalive a woman during the deed. They'd been exchanging and creating homemade videos and calling each other master and slave. It transpired that Graham clearly knew Elaine had recently been in a mental health facility and she was vulnerable. He decided now was the time to strike. He knew that Elaine was into this more kind of extreme intimacy, but I suppose he wanted to see how far he could push it. He knew that he could make this look like she had unalived herself, and he planned to lure her to the cliffs for that reason. He got her to agree to go there of her own accord and then be tied up. He then lived out his biggest, sickest fantasy and then dumped her body. But he wasn't counting on the bag being found along with the disturbing messages that linked him to this abhorrent crime. He was found guilty of murder in 2015 and given life in prison.
15-year-old James Gordon picked up a .22 caliber long barrel rifle and executed his entire family. His father, his mother, and his 17-year-old sister. No struggle, no warning, just cold, calculated murder. When questioned, James showed little emotion. He said he hated them, claiming he was sick of his mother's constant chewing, his sister's annoying accent, and his father's disapproval of his political opinions. After a 6-month trial, James wasn't found guilty. He was found insane. The jury believed he wasn't in his right mind and acquitted him of all charges, sending him to Rusk State Hospital in Texas in 1968. He spent 6 years there before being quietly released back into the world. 2 years later, James disappeared completely. He changed his name, severed ties with his past, and vanished into society. Until 40 years later, James reemerged, this time as an award-winning professor of psychology. He had built an entirely new life, one filled with accolades, recognition, and students who admired him. But when his real identity was uncovered, it sent shockwaves through the community. Even the mayor called for his removal, labeling him a murderer hiding in plain sight. But the university refused. They stood by him, saying he had served his time and that the man he used to be no longer existed. This case is as disturbing as it is surreal. A teenager killer who butchered his own family, now shaping young minds in a classroom. It makes you wonder, how well do we ever really know the people around us?
Shortly after that video was posted on TikTok, the 14-year-old girl who took the video, named Scarlett Vickers, would be murdered by her own father. Scarlett was your average girl living in the United Kingdom. But sadly, on July 5th, 2024, she would end up dead. Now, initially, Scarlett's 50-year-old father, Simon, claimed that he and his daughter had been having a play fight in the kitchen. They were throwing objects at each other, he said, and he accidentally grabbed a knife and threw it at his daughter, and that's how she died. It was a big accident. But authorities called bullshit. You see, Scarlett had been inflicted with a 4-inch deep stab wound. A stab wound that had punctured her body at a 90-degree angle. There was a lot of contention in the courtroom as Simon tried to defend himself and acted like he was not complicit in his own daughter's murder, But on January 27th, 2025, he was found guilty of killing his own daughter, and he will now be sentenced on February 10th. It's still unclear, though, exactly what happened that evening. Sadly, through all the investigating that authorities did, they couldn't tell exactly what had happened that had caused this situation. Was there a fight? Was there a big argument? Why did Simon stab Scarlett? Those are the details that are still unknown. And since Simon, throughout the trial, refused to share the whole truth with the court, sadly, the reality of this situation was probably taken to the grave with Scarlett. If you want to hear more true crime stories, listen to the podcast that I co-host with my wife, Courtney, Murder in America. It's available on all streaming platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Haunted dolls. Oh my god. It's an old clown doll. The name of the clown is called Clyde the Clown. And it was gifted to this guy, right? And instead of throwing it out, he just kind of, decided to take it home with him. Knowing that creepy shit would happen involving this doll. It would move. You would find it in a different spot. He decided to record the doll. And he captures it move. Yes. Let's see this shit. What?
Footage looks even creepier when sped up to 3 times normal speed.
What the? You literally look at the camera like, I see you, mother. I don't think that could be fake though, because
why?
It moves mad slow. Also because it didn't do the cheesy move where like it moves like hand.
And the fact that it's a clown, bro, and it looks like life size. That's one thing that I hate about like.
Oh, it's a big doll. It's not a little doll.
But it's the size of the chair.
This disturbing crime case is going to make you think twice about who you're friends with at school. Christina Paulilla had a rough childhood. Her dad passed away in an accident when she was just 2 years old, and her mum then really struggled with substance abuse. She eventually handed over custody of Christine and her older brother to their grandparents. She was diagnosed with alopecia and poor vision from a young age. Now, sadly, because of this, she was kind of seen at school as an easy target, and she was severely bullied. She had to wear thick glasses to help her see and wigs to cover up her hair loss, and bullies would make fun of her and snatch her wig off, leaving her humiliated. She would desperately try and do her makeup and draw on her eyebrows so that she would fit in. Then, while attending high school in Houston, she actually made friends with some of the popular girls. These girls were Rachel Colorutis and Tiffany Rowell. It kind of seemed like her luck had changed. Suddenly she had
about
these
you, and it's
lovely
no one
friends who
else
were helping
like
her with
you is what
fashion,
they're
hair,
getting. Positive vibes
makeup.
only.
She was looking great.
Shout out to
and she
King
had
Sauce
this like
Boss in the
newfound
building.
confidence. She eventually became the school's Miss Irresistible in 2003. And I think it's actually like looking back a little bit weird that the school had a Miss Irresistible competition, but let me know what you think about that in the comments. She was a far cry from the shy and insecure child she once was. Now, due to her newfound confidence and social life, the 17-year-old girl eventually got a boyfriend, 21-year-old Christopher Snyder. But he was really not the Prince Charming that she was hoping for. He was a known criminal and substance user. And obviously for this reason, her mum was disapproving and so was her friends. They wanted what was best for her and they just felt like he was going to take her down a dark path. And they weren't wrong. Christine ultimately ended up being influenced by him and taking substances herself. And this was just such a real shame because obviously, like I said, she'd had this rough upbringing. She had a real difficult start to life. She'd battled through, she'd got this confidence, things were looking up, but then she just ended up in a bad situation again. Christine and Christopher began having frequent arguments, and one even resulted in Christine staying the night on the front garden of her boyfriend's parents' house. She was apparently enraged by this argument, so much so that she threatened to kill all of the family members. Everyone knew that this relationship was toxic. It was apparently abusive from both parties. On the 18th of July 2003, the couple visited Tiffany's house. Now remember, Tiffany was one of the nice girls that was friends with Christine. She lived in Clear Lake City and she was hanging out with her own boyfriend that night, Marcus, and his cousin Aldebert. Rachel was also there too. So there was the four of them and obviously Christine and Christopher. But unfortunately, Christine and Christopher had a sinister plan for the evening. They actually intended to go to Tiffany's house and steal some substances that they thought she had in her house. But things really didn't go to plan because when the couple showed up, an argument broke out between all of them. The pair were volatile, potentially due to the substance abuse, and for some unknown reason, the couple began shooting frantically. They fired at least 40 times. The 4 innocent victims all received multiple bullet wounds, and 3 of them were deceased. But at this point, Rachel was still hanging on to life just by a thread. The poor girl actually mustered up some strength amongst the chaos and horror and crawled through a puddle of her own blood to desperately try to reach a phone to get help. However, Christine spotted her. For some reason, she just was not going to let her friend get away, and she callously began beating her to death. Heartbreakingly, Rachel was calling out why as she died. Now, the couple fled the scene immediately after, leaving very little evidence behind. Heartbreakingly, one of the victims, Aldebert, had moved to the area to escape violence in his hometown. The couple fled to a Walgreens where Christine was actually due to start work, and she literally just clocked in as if nothing had happened that day. This was just mere hours after this mass murder. Now, the only real evidence that police had to go off were descriptions of the suspects from eyewitnesses in the neighborhood who saw the 2 people leave. But frustratingly, police seemed to just initially brush off these deaths as substance related. It would be an agonizing 3 years until the truth was eventually revealed. During this time, the murderous pair had broken up. As I said, they weren't good together. They were very toxic. So it's actually definitely better that they just went their separate ways. And Christopher actually went to prison for stealing a car. Christine, though, wound up in rehab in Texas, and she met a guy there called Stanley Rott. They dated for a while until they got married in March 2005, and he had no idea he'd married a mass murderer. Side note, this actually terrifies me about relationships, like you literally never know who you're letting into your life. It wasn't until Christine saw a news report on TV with a literal police sketch of herself that she came clean to her husband. And what do you think he did in this situation? I would have probably guessed break up with her, come forward and tell the police. No, the pair went into hiding together. They stayed hidden in San Antonio for a year until police received an anonymous tip. Christine was arrested at their motel, and Stanley told police what he knew. Now, Christine tried to pin the murders on her ex, Christopher, but the pair were ultimately both charged with murder. But in another frustrating twist, before police could get their hands on Christopher, in 2006, he took his own life. Christine was found guilty and sentenced to life, and she's never admitted the motive for the crimes, but psychiatrists claim that she may have committed the crimes out of jealousy.
They were found shot to death in the bed of their truck during an overnight camping trip, and a disposable camera found at the scene contained these disturbing last known photos of them. This is the mysterious case of Brandon Rumbaugh and Lisa Guerreri, and it's one that will never not terrify me. On October 17th, 2003, Brandon and Lisa would head out for an overnight camping trip in the small town of Bumblebee, Arizona. The couple had recently got engaged, and they wanted to camp out underneath the stars to celebrate their 1-year anniversary. They lived together in Scottsdale, and originally they were going to go to Disneyland to celebrate, but it was too pricey. So last minute, they decided to recreate their first date and go camping instead. Lisa borrowed her mom's white 2000 F-150 truck and a video camera and told her that they would be back the next day. Now, Lisa's mom almost didn't let them borrow the truck because it was in need of an oil change, but again, last minute, she changed her mind and said it was okay. But she had no idea what was about to happen on this camping trip, or that it was about to become one of Arizona's most chilling unsolved mysteries. So their road trip started. The two had bought a disposable camera before leaving Scottsdale to document their trip, and about halfway there, Lisa's mom called them to see if they had made it to their destination yet. Lisa said no, and that they still had a long way to go, but at this point, everything seemed fine. Lisa's mom said, "Be careful," in which Lisa replied, "I love you." And those were the last words that she would ever tell her mom. What happened after this phone call has never really been explained. So when the next day came and went, and nobody heard from Brandon or Lisa, Lisa's mom immediately knew that something was wrong. They never returned the truck and weren't answering phone calls, so she called everyone she knew and the police to begin looking for them. Brandon's friends knew of the general area where they were supposed to be because they had all gone camping up there before, so they began looking, but initially couldn't find anything. Then they traveled down Bumblebee Road, just off of I-17, and that's when they spotted their truck. Upon getting closer, they found Brandon and Lisa in the bed of their truck, deceased. They were in their sleeping bags and had been shot multiple times in the head. When the Yavapai County Sheriff's Office arrived to the scene, they found 2 items were missing, which were Lisa's keys and the video camera that she had borrowed from from her mom. But about 100 feet away from the crime scene, police found the couple's broken disposable camera. It looked like someone had thrown it, and on the camera were the very last photos ever taken of Brandon and Lisa. They were posing in the same bed of the truck that they were killed in. Now, according to Lisa's mom, this final photo of Lisa seems off. She said that this wasn't Lisa's true smile, and it was almost like she was scared and uncomfortable, but still trying to smile anyway. But there was one final photo taken on the camera, and it is really disturbing to me. The final photo taken on the camera is pretty overexposed, and you can really only make out the corner of the image. At first, authorities didn't know what the image was of, but they discovered that it was an image of the inside of an old restaurant in Bumblebee. But what doesn't make sense to me is that this was taken after the final photos of the couple, meaning whoever took this picture was likely their killer, and it was taken after they were killed. This is really scary to me because it seems like if this is accurate, the killer took their camera from the crime scene, took the photo inside the restaurant for whatever reason, and then returned the camera to the crime scene. Why would anyone do all of that? It doesn't make sense to me, and it's one of the most disturbing things about this case. Police believe that Brandon and Lisa were either asleep or getting ready to go to sleep when they were attacked, and there was evidence that Lisa woke up at some point during the murders. There was one item found at the scene that contained DNA, possibly of the killer, but what that was has not been publicly identified. Police ruled out a murder-suicide, and there was no evidence of a robbery gone wrong or any sexual assault. And there were no drugs or alcohol involved in the killings either, so it's left many wondering what truly happened to them and why. This seems incredibly random, and it's terrifying. The area where they went camping just off of Bumblebee Road is pretty popular now, but it wasn't back then. Their campsite was extremely desolate and in a pretty remote part of the desert near the Bradshaw Mountains. You would think that you would feel safe out there completely alone, but someone was lurking out there waiting for them. And it makes me wonder if this was a wrong place, wrong time type of situation. Maybe they saw something that they weren't supposed to see out there. It's really similar to the movie Wolf Creek, which is loosely based on the true story of Ivan Milat, who killed 7 people randomly as they backpacked through the remote wilderness. As much as they investigated, police never found who killed Brandon and Lisa. But one thing did come up early in the investigation that stood out to me. Just the night before they left on their trip, Brandon may have had an argument with an unknown man in the doorway of their apartment. It was around 10 p.m., and although the man has never been identified, he was reportedly in his 40s, tall and husky, and he was wearing a white t-shirt and blue jeans. It's not known what they were arguing about or if they even knew each other. And just a month after the murders, police announced that they were looking for information about or from this person, but they never said if he was considered a suspect or not. Brandon and Lisa had no enemies. Since this was seemingly so random, many people have questioned if serial killer Israel Keyes could have been responsible. Israel Keyes murdered 11 people, but is suspected to have killed many more. He started in 1998 and never really had an MO. He targeted random people who just so happened to cross his path, and he would often strike in parks and campgrounds. He was active during the time that Brandon and Lisa were murdered, and one of the scariest things about Israel is that he would plant kill kits around the US that contained murder weapons, so he was truly random about who he killed. He didn't have a specific profile, but this is just a theory and has never been officially connected. Although their case is still open, it remains unsolved 21 years later, and whoever killed Brandon and Lisa is still out there.
Hammer coined the phrase, "You can't make this stuff up," might have known the story of real-life boogeyman, Albert Fish. A slight, elderly man with grey hair, no one suspected the kindly single father of being sadistic child murderer and cannibal.
This YouTuber was murdered by her own father in an honor killing. Tiba Al-Ali was originally from Iraq but moved to Turkey in 2017 at the age of 17 and has lived there for the past 6 years with her boyfriend. While she lived in Turkey, she began a YouTube channel and blogged her life and managed to gain around 34,000 subscribers. But even though Tiba seemed to love her new life, her father back in Iraq was not too happy with her decision to leave and not come back. And on January 2023, she went back to Iraq to attend an event and see some of her family, but while she was there, her father kidnapped her, drugged her, and then strangled her in her sleep. He later said that he did this to wash away the shame she had brought to the family. He eventually turned himself in, but apparently he won't be serving much time in prison. And this is because the penal code in Iraq allows judges to impose lenient sentences on people who kill for honorable motives.
Okay, so Kanye West might actually be a clone. Okay, so we all know how Kanye has been in the news for a while now, but not too long ago, he disappeared for a while and came back looking completely different. Just look at this photo. He looks like 2 different people. He really doesn't even look like Kanye anymore. Kanye also said if he ever disappeared and came back and was acting different, it's not him, and that's exactly what happened. How could somebody be everywhere to nowhere so quickly? It's all a little too sketchy, and here's the video of Kanye saying if I disappear and come back, it's not me.
Yeah. What have you got to say to people that are trying to cancel you? You can't cancel me. I'm here. That's right. You're here. We're doing a big, ain't going nowhere, baby. Been here for years. If I ever went anywhere, we know why. You understand what I'm saying? Exactly. So we here. Exactly. Go ahead. Any words on Bitcoin? Forget paparazzi. Let's get bodyguard.
Killed my.
What are you talking about? Really being held captive. Okay? It is a hostage. My fault. The beach is glassing.
About you, and it's no one else like you is what they're getting. Positive vibes only. Shout out to King Saul's boss in the building. About you, and it's no one else like you is what they're getting. Positive vibes.
My life, son.
Sauce the boss. It's his birthday. Everybody wish him happy birthday.
Oh, this is big right here, y'all. Everybody wish Sauce, the official boss, happy birthday, man. Let's go. Let's see it in the timeline.
I like the hero. Can't greet him with two, only the third eye.
I like the
Killer vision, PSER, Brent Hospital. Left me on this track. Accidents and opera O's and conscious, unconscious. Flow riding on my train. Denzel, Chris Pine,
Happy birthday.
Albert Einstein.
I like to give a big shout out to Hasty Gordon. Somebody said Hasty Gordon. Charlie Fields.
Extraterrestrial blunt, I got it on my lap when I land Soul Train line.
I like how that sounds.
They fear what they don't understand.
I like to give a big happy birthday to
Sauce the boss. I'm dancing in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean with a polo sweater. How bad do you want success?
I was holding my breath
unconsciously. The conscious me woke up and came up for air. I turned 136 into the boom, but ain't.
Shout to Sauce the boss, man. Happy birthday.
Fireman's Mr. Clean. Dirty talk, come shots, Listerine. The devil trying to catch me slipping, but my third eye open. I see when I don't know. Body growing out the ground. The reason to
call me Megatron Ron.
You can count on the finger of his hand how many people I can trust. The word play insane. Meditate, bring down a plane with no passengers on it. Facing the blunt.
I like to give a big shout out to Boyce Roseborough.
Attitude, cutting ways, malice is wasn't on it. I stay to myself, I'm known as the cool kid. Come to the moonlight, G's on his head like the school kid. Two legs, the pussy is the basket. I finish a dunk, pull out and shoot my cool J. You see how I do when I do name.
Wow, look at all the birthday wishes. It's Friday night and he's watching us on his birthday.
Friday night. He could be anywhere in the world. He's watching us.
Oh,
my life, son.
We're back
Sauce
once
the
again.
boss. It's his birthday.
You know, it's a beautiful day.
Happy birthday.
Oh, this is big right here, y'all. Everybody wish Sauce, the official boss,
just light up.
Happy birthday, man.
Can't find you, Mr. Hero.
Let's go.
Can't
Let's see
greet
it
him
in
with
the
two, only the
timeline.
third eye. Killer vision, PSER, Brent Hospital. Let me on this track. Accidents and opera O's and conscious, unconscious. Slow riding on my trains. Denzel, Chris Pine, unstoppable. Albert Einstein. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Therefore, flying off the tracks. Extraterrestrial blunt, I got it on my lap. When I land Soul Train line, I put on my dad. They fear what they don't understand. I forgive them cause they don't really know no better. Hope let them go water. I'm dancing in the middle of the Atlantic.
I like to give a big happy birthday to
how bad do you want success? I was holding my breath unconsciously. The conscious me woke up and came up for air. I turned 136 into the boom, but ain't. Dancing with chopped, I guarantee them in the drink. Fireman's Mr. Clean. Dirty talk, come shots,
Shout to
Mr.
Sauce the
Ring.
boss, man.
Catch
Happy
me slipping,
birthday.
but my third eye open. I see when I don't know. out the ground. The reason a couple cups of pressure coming. They good you not. You can count on the fingerless hand how many people I can trust.
Call me
The wordplay
Megatron Ron.
insane. Meditate, bring down
Teflon
A-plane.
Don.
With no passengers on it. Facing the blunt, putting managers on it. Push T attitude, cutting ways, malices wasn't on it. I stayed to myself.
I like to
I'm
give a
known
big
as
shout
the
to
cool
Boys
kid.
Roseboro.
Come to the moolah, G's on his head like
His choice
Stand
been
between
thorough.
two legs. The pussy is the basket. I finish a dunk.
I like to
pull
say,
out and
hey,
shoot
girl.
my cool J. You see
To
how
J
I do
girl.
when I do me.
Wow, look at all the birthday wishes. It's Friday night
Yeah.
and he's watching us on his birthday.
Friday night. He could be anywhere in the world. He's watching
Oh
us.
man, we're back once again. You know, it's a beautiful day.
For my life,
Feeling
son.
down, just
Sauce the boss.
get you a bag of that.
It's his birthday. Everybody wish him
We just
happy
light up.
birthday.
Oh, this is big right here,
Can't
y'all.
fire Mr.
Everybody
Head
with
Rock.
Sauce.
Can't greet him with
The
two,
official
only the
boss.
third eye. Killer Vision,
Happy
PSER,
birthday, man.
Rent Hospital. Okay,
Let's
me
go.
on the track.
Let's see it in the
Accidents,
timeline.
operas, conscience, unconscious. Flow riding on
I
my
like
train.
the-
Denzel, Chris Pine, unstoppable.
I like the-
Albert Einstein.
I like the wish.
Imagination is more
Sauce.
important than knowledge. Therefore, I'm flying off the tracks. Extraterrestrial blunt, I got it on my lap. When I
like
land
the
Soul
wish.
Train line, I
Sauce
perform
the
my
boss.
dance. They fear what they
Happy
don't
birthday.
understand. I forgive them cause
I
they
like to
don't
give a
really
big
know
shout
no
to
better.
Hasty Gordon.
Hope let
Somebody
them
say
walk
Hasty.
on water. I'm dancing
Charlie
in the
Fields.
middle of the Atlantic Ocean with a polo sweater. How bad do you want
I like how that
success? I
sounds,
was
yo.
holding my breath unconsciously.
I like to give a
Conscious
big
me
happy birthday
woke up
to,
and came up for air. I turned
Sauce the
1
boss.
to the boom, but ain't dancing with
Feel like
chocolate.
we
Guaranteed
the
them in the
rooftop or something, you know what I mean?
dreams. Fight miss, Mr. Clean.
I like to
Dirty
give a
talk,
big shout to
come
Benny
shots,
Chapo.
Listerine. The devil tried to catch me
official
slipping, but my
Capo.
third eye open. I see when I don't look. 40 growing
Shout
out
to Sauce the
ground.
boss, man. Happy birthday.
Happy
You can count on the
You
fingers
don't
and
quit.
how many people I can trust. The wordplay insane. Meditate, bring down A-plane.
dawn.
With no passengers on it.
Call
Facing
me
the blunt,
Megatron
putting managers
Ron.
on it. Push T attitude,
Teflon
cutting ways,
Don.
malices wasn't on it. I
Hey,
stayed to myself, I'm known as the cool kid. Come to the moolah, G's on his head like the school days between two legs. The
I like to
pussy
give
is
a
the
big shout to
basket. I
Boys
finish a
Roseboro.
dunk, pull out and shoot my cool J. You
His
see
choice
how I
been
do
thorough.
when I do me.
I like to say, hey, girl. To J girl.
Wow, look at all the birthday wishes. It's Friday night and
Yeah.
he's watching
Oh,
us on
man.
his birthday.
We're
Friday
back once
night.
again.
He could be anywhere in the
You know,
world.
it's a beautiful day.
He's watching us.
If you feeling down, just get you a bag of that. We just light up.
For my life, son.
Can't
Song
fire
the
Mr.
boss.
Head Rock. Can't greet him with two, only the third eye. Killer Vision,
Oh, this is big
PSER,
right here,
Rent
y'all.
Hospital.
Everybody
Let
with
me on the
Sauce.
track.